right? And people use okay? I'm sure at least once in this discussion, I've gone all right? Because that's what we do. We go, I don't know, well, we do these things. You don't want to overuse them, but you do want to use them some because it's how we speak. And it is a great way to show a shift in a conversation or someone trying to create a shift in a conversation. Like if you have a couple and one of them is like sending out feelers for where this relationship might go, they might be talking and you might have a little bit of silence and one of them might go, Jane? And the other one's, doing something else and like, if you read that, it tells the reader, okay, A, what's coming is important. And B, or it's going to be funny. There's a point to this pause because you have dialogue, you have action, and then you have this little pause with a name and then a, right? Or what? Or, right? So if you break them up like that, then you need punch after that. You need a joke. You need some sort of sharing there that the reader is expecting. They're expecting something of value after that little pause. And you don't want to use them all the time, but we do it all the time. Another thing that kills realistic conversation, people use it to try to avoid dialogue tags. They will throw the name in all the time. Have you ever read a book where it's, Jane, do you think we should go here or do that? Why, no, Margaret, I don't think we should go here or do that. I think we should go here or there. Oh, Jane, I don't really think so. That's just too... Okay, we don't use each other's our names in conversation that much. There are people who do, okay? There are exceptions. You have Sandy, who everybody is friend. It's comma, friend, comma. I love it. It's her personality. It's who she is. And every time I see it, she even writes that way. It's amazing. I love it because every time I see it, I smile. Why do I smile? Because it's her. If everybody and their brother did it, all of a sudden, I'd be pulling my hair out because it's not how we're accustomed to hearing people talk, right? Because if ever somebody uses my name several times in a conversation, I really, really, really want to say, you know what? I'm going to be okay if you forget my name. Because I feel like they've heard that thing where if you use someone's name a few times in a conversation, you'll never forget it. Yeah, you know what? It's okay to forget my name. It gets really old if I have to hear it over and over and over in the front of every sentence. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's usually because someone's trying to remember it. And that's how it reads when you see it in a book and you just open those pages and it's got a name in there. It's like the more acceptable way to use a dialogue tag, right? So realistic speech, you just want to write the way you hear people speak and then clean it up just enough because, there are so many pauses and so many ums and so many likes. And, you can have someone use a like now and then, but you don't want to turn it into a Valley Girl thing where, you've got it used like a comma. That gets old fast, right? So instead, you want to write the way you hear people speak, and then you want to tone it down just a little bit. And if you tend to be like me and you write a little too authentically, then you're going to tone it down a lot more. But if you find that it's getting stilted, it's probably because you're sticking to those rules that you remember from, junior high where, okay, this is the thing and this is the here, and then you've got to come and then you tell us who said it. Well, that's great and wonderful when you're writing a short story that only has 2 lines of dialogue, but it's not great when you have a dialogue-driven book and every other sentence has said. So, I never circled back to what I was going to get at. Dialogue tags, said and asked, are generally, there are always exceptions to everything, just throwing that out there, but they're generally preferred to words. There's articles, you'll find them all over Writer's Digest, and I think K.M. Weiland has a couple. A lot of the writing instructors today will tell you, just use said instead of coming up with, what are the words I'm looking for? Alternatives. So instead of said, they'll say breathed. I don't know what to do. She breathed, or she cried, or she wailed, or she... Just use said. Seriously, just use said. Asked. Now, sometimes, if you're going to do asked, if that asking is really more of a demand or something, you can change it to demanded. You know, John demanded to know, John demanded, you know, so John demanded. You can do that, but it gives a much richer story instead of, where on earth have you been? John demanded. Okay, right? That's better than John said, because you don't get that sense of, right? But if instead John pushes himself in your way so you can't move around him and puts his hands on him and says, where have you been? Well, so now you have, you know, Sally Sue walks through the door and says, shuts the door, and she turns. You feel her uncertainty and the uh-oh moment, right? You do. But you also feel his, hey, what is going on? All at once. So when books talk about how action beats are preferable, that's why. When those action beats give you more, okay, it's better. Now, K.M. Weiland and I had a conversation on her blog, and I will try to link that post, on email. I will try to link the post that came following it, because I was reading a book, and it was a good book, okay? At the time, I didn't think it was. As I was writing to her, I did not think it was a good book. I didn't know how I was going to review it. I was having a really hard time with this book. And I was like, I don't know what to do. It feels like this author took every rule that you see and applied it in all the wrong ways. And one of the things that the author had done was try to use action beats instead of dialogue tags. Great, right? But instead, those action beats had no meaning. So it was like, you know, in the article, I think I used the illustration of an ashtray. It's like, you know, what do you think about this? John moved the ashtray. Well, I don't think so. You know, Mary flicked a speck of dust off the table. John, you know, fiddles with his keys next. And then this, well, what do these things have to do with anything with this conversation? It means nothing. So, if in a case like that, if you're not going to pick up that ashtray and throw it at Mary or vice versa, that ashtray doesn't mean anything to the conversation if it's not going to come in there. But if John is picking at his cuticle, or Mary's picking at her cuticles, or peeling her nail polish off, it might give an indication of how she's feeling inside. But just fiddling with an inanimate object so that we know who's talking is not authentic and avoiding dialogue tags. It's using your action beat as a dialogue tag, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so authentic writing, it needs to sound like conversation, but you have to tone it down just a bit, because conversation tends to get a little actually rude and we don't want to do that.